welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We do this every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern Time to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I really want to thank everybody who's tuned in this hour, whether you're listening live or on the podcast or on the Facebook live stream. This is one of those rare shows that you get me for the full hour instead of a guest. So today we've been talking all about this body of work that I'm developing called Synthesis Prime, which is all about healing our primary our relationships to our primary archetypes, the maternal archetype and the paternal archetype. So for the last few segments, we've been talking about what are the maternal and paternal archetypes, what do they rule over, what do they look like, how we can shift and change those relationships. Now, once we've realigned ourselves, once we've changed those relationships to our mother archetype, to our father archetype, there's still one more step that we need to do. Because the other thing that we absorb as infants, before we ever learn to speak, before we ever learn to do anything else, the other thing that we learn is the relationship to each other. How do the mother and father archetype relate to each other? This is a very, very important relationship because it's about how we relate to ourselves internally. What is it like when we relate to ourselves? So the synthesis prime part is, how do you view the relationship of the mother and father archetype relationship to each other, right? Did the mother and father, again, symbolic, you could have two fathers, two mothers, who knows, you're just one, it doesn't matter. What is the relationship look like to each other, right? Is the mother and father loving to each other? Are they antagonistic? Are they supportive? Are they not supportive? Are they critical of each other? And the interesting thing about this is we need both, right? We're made up of both. We have both masculine and feminine. We have both mother and father within us. And the more that those sides of us are at war with each other, the more we are at war with ourselves. And the less likely we are to find peace within ourselves. But when we bring these two archetypes together and bring them together in a loving, supportive, helpful, joyful way, then the more loving, joyful, supportive we can be to ourselves. So what does that look like? Think of images of this, archetypal mother figure, archetypal father figure in your life. What comes to mind for you? What is the energy or emotion around it? What do you want it to be? What images do you have from the past that haunt you, or that aren't the way you would have want them to be? And how would you reconfigure it? How would you repattern it? How would you change it so that when they come together in a way that is in alignment, that makes you feel good, that makes you feel whole? Are they holding hands? Are they looking at each other? Are they embracing? Are they just being present to each other? Are they allowing each other to be fully in their own aspect? Do they show deference to each other? Do they show their concern? Do they show their support to each other? And if they do, what does that look like? And what meaning do we make from that? So often we make these meanings that actually have very little to do with reality. So if we're going to make a meaning from it, let's make the most empowering, the most joyful, the most uplifting meaning we can from this relationship. Right? So we feel, we've done the work so far to feel in alignment and feel joyful about our relationship to the mother archetype. We've done the effort, and we've made the effort to feel in alignment and feel joyful and supported by the father archetype. Now let's bring them together, the yin and the yang. You know, one of the things about the yin and yang symbol that a lot of people miss, but is so, so important, and most teachers of Taoism and of Chinese medicine, they always emphasize this. That if you take a look at the yin yang symbol, that black and white symbol, that in the white side, there's a little dot of black, and in the black side, there's a little dot of white, which means that within the divine feminine, there is an aspect of the divine masculine, and within the divine masculine, there's an aspect of the divine feminine. And so when we bring these two aspects of ourselves together in alignment, we're actually bringing together that essence that is within each of them together to make one whole. And it's a dance, right? With the yin and yang symbol, it's a dance that goes around and it twirls around, and it's never one is always dominant over the other. There are times when it's appropriate where we have to show up more in our paternal archetype, more in our masculine archetype in certain situations. That's just what's appropriate. And then there are other, especially in those situations around money, business, career, finance, etc. And then there are other times when it's more appropriate to show up more in our maternal archetype, around relationships, around intimacy, around relating to each other, team building, things like that. So it's not that one is good and one is bad and one is strong and one is weak. No, they're different archetypes that rule over different aspects of our life. And actually, they rule over all the other archetypes that are within us. And I know there are like 12 primary archetypes, and underneath those 12 archetypes, there are even more archetypes, but they all distill down to the two primary ones, the mother and the father archetype, the masculine and feminine archetype. And so their relationship to each other, the king and queen, they both sit on the thrones together. They both play an important role, right? That's still why even today, the first lady is a position of respect, or the first spouse. You know, one day we'll have a female president and she'll have a husband maybe, and that husband will be the first husband instead of the first lady. But that position is also important, right? They support each other. They come together and they support each other. And as a united whole, they make the one circle that is the yin and yang. And that circle is infinite. And that circle is one of the strongest geometric figures. And those energies dance within us every single day. And so we harmonize and bring them together. And bringing them together does not make us androgynous. It does not mean that the masculine and the feminine are equal or the same. They're different. And that's beautiful, because that gives us the variety and the spice of life. It's not about one being better or than another. It's about having access to them in a positive, empowering way that we can call upon the appropriate archetype for the appropriate situation in the appropriate manner. And what's appropriate for you and what's appropriate for me can be different. We're individuals. We're human beings. We're not carbon copy duplicates. So, we visualize, we journal, we move, and we meditate on all of this. So, come together with a visualization of the two archetypes together. Journal. What does it look like? What does that amazing relationship between the paternal and maternal archetype look together? Write it out. Get it in your body. Create those affirmations. And then sit down and meditate on it. Call upon those energies and see if you can feel the difference. Call upon the divine feminine versus the divine masculine at different times and see the difference in how it feels in your body. And then call upon them together. and call upon them to connect to each other, to support each other, to be in alignment with each other. Alignment does not mean being the same. Alignment means being appropriate for what is needed at that time. So, that is Synthesis Prime. I really want to thank you all for staying with me this hour. It's been fun. It's been great having you on with me and listening, and I am here for you to answer your questions, to work with you. Should you need more support, you can reach me here at the Double Diamond Wellness Center. Of course, our phone number at the Double Diamond Wellness Center is 212-721-8183. If you want to email me directly, you can email me at sam@theconsciousconsultant.com. Coming up next week, I have a wonderful Tibetan Buddhist monk in town who's coming back on my show for the second time, Abe Rinpoche, talking about the Four Truths and just some really wonderful stuff around Buddhism. It'll be a great show. Coming up tomorrow, we've got brand new shows from Joseph Bondi and the No 420, Joan and Priya doing a new show all about Wonder Woman, and Tony Martignetti also with a brand new show. So I hope you will join us tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Time to 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Talkradio.nyc. Thank you all for listening. We will talk to you next week.